Okay, we are recording, I think. Yep, here we go. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a very special video podcast episode of Beyond the Song. Today, my guest is a fellow musician, songwriter, actor, father, and most importantly, he's my blood. Today, I sit down and chat with a rising star of the stage and screen and talk about films, music, songwriting, and life in this new crazy world we live in. I'm honoured to have the one and the only, and none other than my cousin, Damian McNeilly. Hello, Damian, all the way in Sheffield. How are you doing?
Hello, John and Bob. I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I am brilliant. Well, how's life over in Sheffield, England?
It's all right. I think everyone was struggling a bit to start with, but I can feel this massive sense or wave of creativity. I think people are finally starting to get a bit of hope, and well, I'm certainly feeling it anyway.
Happy days. So, well, I'll start off as well for a lot of people, maybe over here in North America, Canada. For anybody just tuning in, I'm in Canada. Damien is all the way in Sheffield, England. That's why there's a delay on everything that we're saying. Hopefully not anyway. So Damien is my younger cousin. We're almost like more like brothers than cousins, to be honest, growing up. But Damien is a singer, songwriter, actor. At the minute, is concentrating, I'd say, more on the acting side, but music is always still going to be there. Do you mind if we just go back a wee bit in the childhood?
Yeah.
Like what got you into acting? You know, what was it by pure chance down the line that you get into acting, or is this something that you've always wanted to do?
It was you. It was you, to be honest. It was well, you were my first friend. My first kind of memories is living in Burnaby Walk and you coming in with a white motorbike helmet. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
Yeah, and I had that for years, so I did. I think looking back, I remember my Uncle Billy always saying, "Who are we today, Dito?" I was always acting a character from something to watch, be it Ghostbusters or wrestling or whatever. And then I think it was 8 or 9 when you were in a play called The Hunger.
Yep.
With Roden Street Drama Group.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I remember just seeing you on the stage, seeing everyone on the stage, and I was rattling inside. It was almost like an anxiety. It was excitement. And I just wanted the opportunity to do it, but I was absolutely crippled with like self-doubt, and I was a very shy kid. And then if you remember about a year and a half later, I think it was 1997, I was invited along for the production of Ma, I'm Pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the start of it, really. And then I did absolutely nothing else, like not one single bit until I turned 31.
Yeah. I did I'm bringing up memories too. I remember being in Nanny's we go into Nanny's kitchen, me and you and our Matthew and Christopher and all that, with the tennis rackets and the wee stool and stuff with the wooden spoons, and whether they come up with a song to go in and perform for everybody in the living room and all that there. But like you were,
summer.
that was it. But like you were saying about, I knew from a young age that there was something in you, like where come back. You just, whenever you fell in love with a movie, we never heard the end of it. You knew every single line. You would sit and watch, especially Ghostbusters. You were a huge Ghostbusters fan.
Yeah.
You knew every line, even if to sit and watch a movie with you, it would be annoying half of the time because you would tell a line. You tell a line before it actually came in.
Yeah.
But you were just so enthralled in something. You would just dive in deep, and you just made it your own all the time. And you were always made to be an actor. What was I going to say? So, like, whenever for doing your acting now, for approaching learning your lines and stuff like that, like whenever we used to do the plays and all that, obviously the way we were shown or taught or whatever is just go home and you go over everybody's lines and you learn them, and then you go in and you would do that scene out in the play centre, whatever the hell it was, the leisure centre. How do you go about doing your lines now? If it's a small part, do you try and learn it on the day to make it more fresh or intense or whatever, or do you spend that time still learning everything before you go into your audition?
It's really, really strange, actually. My memory isn't great. You know, if you ask me what happened last week, I'll struggle. In school, I was absolutely awful, you know, at studies and things like that. I just couldn't remember anything that I'd read. But with scripts, it's completely different. I almost read it and see the whole scenario playing out. So it's just like telling a story of something that happens, you know, something that you've encountered. It seems to just imprint in me, and it almost rolls off the tongue. Then, and I do ad lib a fair bit as well. It's just a matter of actually feeling the character, and that's the big difference. When I had my first experience acting, it was quite forced, and you know, it was pretend, and it was nerve wracking. Now I think I actually become that character. It's almost like channeling an energy of that person, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
And you're brilliant at it. You really are.
Thank you.
No, like anybody who's even the commercials and stuff that you've sent me, like here's a commercial I'm doing in Sheffield or whatever it may be, and I'm watching these things, and these people are all doing their individual parts, and then this fella from Serbia will come on. Me and my family, we have nowhere to work, and I'm like, the accents as well. But even if you can, please go on like YouTube and whatever and look up Damian's profiles for his movies. You get to see how broad he is in the acting world, the accents. And like obviously we're from Belfast, so that's an accent that's very hard to pull off for anybody around the world. So you've already got that nailed. But then you've got the English accent down, and then you've got the European accents nailed down and all that. It's just brilliant to watch. It is literally like I'm seeing your face when I'm watching it, and I'm going, "Oh, that's our kid. Look at that." And I'm going, "That's not our kid," because you do literally take on the life of that role that you're playing there. You're no longer you're not. You can look at people on stage and you still see some of them. You know what I mean? It's still them. But you really dive in and you take on the part and you look the same, but it's not you.
Oh, man.
And that's credit to you.
It's a nightmare for those around me, trust me. When I wake up on that day, particularly if it's quite an intense character, I'm in it. But that's something I've learned. It's something that started happening fairly quickly was I chased this buzz in it. I've never had a buzz like it. And it's just that moment. It's really hard to explain. You're maybe doing some dialogue with somebody, you're looking them in the eye, and they don't know if you flipped. They don't, you know, there's just that look in your eye, and the other person can feel it. It's so hard to explain, but that's it. That's the art for me. That's where the buzz comes from. And you chase it and chase it and chase it, and if you don't get it, you're not happy with it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, bit of a two-part question here, and apologies, I'm looking down. I actually did write, these are my own words, but like you just pointed on a second ago, head like a sieve, hard to remember things. Sometimes I have to look down, so my apologies for that. So two-part question. So I know your life's been pretty hectic in the past couple of years, as you know, with all the acting and all of it. Has that had any effect on songwriting, to go back into music a wee bit? Do you class yourself as a singer-songwriter who acts, or are you an actor that sings and songwrites, or do you get to do much music?
No, I don't even see myself as a musician, like hand on heart, I really don't. I grew up idolizing like you and Mickey McGuinness, and you know, if you think about it, the people that I had around me, how could you compete with that? You know, as singers, performers, songwriters, I was very much in the shadow, and I never rated myself, and I still don't.
But then shadows fall over all of us as well, because I watch you over the years as well, and it's not a jealousy thing. Maybe in my younger days it was like, oh well, look at the attention he's getting or whatever, and look at how he's building himself up. Like, I wanted to be that person, you know. That was always there, the younger version of me. But you were just raising everything you were doing, and I sit back and I'm in awe. There is no shadows with us anymore. We're all just they're living it and doing it, and I'm just in awe every day of you, and so proud of you.
Well, likewise, I remember you passed me a song, didn't you? I think it was end of October when you were in the studio. I swear to God, that song was my autumn. I think I played it 7 times through, and I'm screaming and shouting as I'm driving, beeping the horn. I was just, you know, when you just get on that buzz over a song. And I was just absolutely delighted for you. But I've always been like that. Every once in a while, you'd write a song, and it'd be everything to me. You know what I mean? You and Mickey are like amongst my favorite musicians, and I don't mean if people know. I mean like my actual favorite musicians. Like, yeah, absolutely. The weirdest thing happened. It was actually first lockdown. I wasn't really doing anything. It's when the second lockdowns come in. It was a Thursday night. We'd been out for a walk, and we came in, and I just heard this tune over and over and over again, and then the first words came out. You know what I mean? The first words just dropped, and I was, whoa, I need a pen, I need a pen, I need a pen. So I got it, and the first 3 or 4 lines come out, and then nothing. And then what's going on? And then I obsessed, and I got that song done. And within 3 days, I sat at this table, hardly slept, I was hardly eating, I was just in it. You know, when you catch that kind of frequency or that buzz, I was just in it. And I think 12 songs come out in them 3 days. And then I was driving myself insane with it because I was chasing it again. And then I had a break. And then I think 17 in total have come out now. And I think that's about a month. Now, to me, they sound one way. To me, there's like a concept behind it. But I don't know what other people hear. But like when I was a kid and trying to write songs, they were always very negative. It was always a very E minor sound, you know.
That's easy for anybody to do. We all kind of fall in that pattern. It's just, you usually write more about the sadness in your life than what you can about the happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was so depressing. It was depressing to play them. I had a couple of years ago, after I went through a big breakup, as you know, I don't know, I had like 3 or 4 songs that came out, and they were pure country. It was like Hank Williams, When Will I Know Happiness? And they were so morbid, it was unreal, and I never really played them in front of anyone. But these are all upbeat, and I've never had that sound. I've never had that sound come out of me. Even the strumming of the guitar, it's like a slappy sound. I call it paddy reggae. It's not reggae music, but it just reminds me of that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And I love it. I'm absolutely loving it. In fact, I'm just posting one at the moment. I had a conversation with Mickey McGuinness. I brought him up again. I had a conversation with him last night about something, and it's literally as soon as I stopped speaking to him, the song fell out. And it was just a couple of chords that I had together, and I'm buzzing. A good friend of mine, Kim, she's in a band. They've released an EP with a band called Bandwagon, and their country. It's a female duet.
In England?
Yeah, in around Sheffield area. They are booked for a few gigs over Christmas, and they want me to come and open for them.
Right.
If the gigs happen, that is. And I've never done that, not with a guitar. As you know, I used to sing the backing tracks, and I've been in bands, but I've never been out, just me and the guitar. So it's like, can you imagine? It's just going to be amazing.
It is, but that's how broad your talent is, though, our kid. Like, you don't realize. I'm hoping that you do, because I want you to see what we see and what we've seen for a long time. You've had a wee bit of a pattern over the years or whatever, but there's always been that thing where I'm going, just if you could just see yourself through my eyes, you know what I mean? And all this positive stuff that you're bringing out now is everything around you is just starting to explode. You know what I mean? And that's the feeling all coming out the way it is. So
I think I look back to when I was a kid, a young kid, and I was very loving. I had love in my heart. I was very passionate. I don't know where that got lost, but it did for a long time. And I just had this cloud of negativity. I didn't have it in me to see a positive. Mm-hmm. Everything was negative. And then, I found ways to numb myself. And with a drink and stuff, it just brought out a different character. And it got worse and worse. I didn't have any emotions. I really didn't. I wanted to, but I didn't. All I felt was bitterness, jealousy, resentment. I had a massive chip on my shoulder. And then I couldn't deal with the consequences. So, I'd drink even more. And it just got worse and worse and worse. I could go on all day about that. But the most important thing is, that I thought that was life forever until it ended. And luckily for me, I was completely wrong. And what's happened in the past couple of years is nothing short of a miracle. I remember the desperation of literally saying, if there's anything out there, please just help me. I don't want this anymore. I don't want it. And it changed. And
because you wanted it to change, and that's for anybody out there that is struggling with any kind of alcohol abuse or drug abuse or whatever it may be. Like, go talk to people. You're not alone. You're really not alone. And when you want to end it, you can end it. It's not the end of the road. You know what I mean? And you're a perfect example of that.
Well, I went to some groups, you know what I mean, some 12-step fellowships, and you know, I'd recommend it to anybody. But the journey that spanned since that was completely unexpected, because I found self-love, you know, and people used to talk about love or self-love. I used to, for God's sake, if I heard the word love in a song other than the Beatles, I would cringe. I never understood what love was. I never understood love energy until it hit me. I still remember the exact moment it hit me. I was laid on the living room floor listening to Bob Marley, and I almost seen an energy. You know, I could feel it floating, and it went into my heart or came out of my heart, one of the two. And I was rattling. Everything looked different. I could see a pattern to everything, you know. And in that moment, I realized I'm not a bad guy. You know, I'm really not. I might have done a lot of shitty things in the past. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
Finding my true nature, you know, Shakespeare that said, "To thine own self be true." I don't think a lot of people understand how to be themselves, but when you are, my God, well, you're serving your soul's purpose, and not every day is not walking on sunshine. But this kind of notion that I had was, scientifically, if a positive thought has more charge than a negative, well, that tells me that if you fight for it inside yourself, you can beat it. You can overcome anything. Just like when it's nighttime, it's only nighttime because the sun goes away. You know, nighttime doesn't overcome the sun. The darkness doesn't overcome the light. The light goes away. And I do believe we're kind of like a projection of the stars above us. And it's, as I say, I mean, I rattle away on Facebook sometimes about love against fear. And it's only because I can feel it. And if I can pull through it, you know, anybody can. If you look at life maybe, you know, 4 years ago, even longer than that, you know, there was getting hospitalized, there was all this negative stuff, you know. It felt like the end of my life, and it was the end of that cycle. And that's why I felt like I was dying, because it was the end of that cycle. I didn't realize that there was a beginning that came after it, though.
Yeah, that's amazing, though. Like I say, for anybody to watch, they can draw big time inspiration from your journey. That's why I wanted to do this, especially with you. A lot of people think, well, beyond the song is usually going in depth into people's songwriting and all that, but you bring a whole spectrum. You go from music and, you know, the acting as well, but it's also your journey is the most important thing, and I want to get that story out too. I want people to see who you are, and they're going to watch you rise. I know it in my bones they're going to see you on the big screen before long, you know what I mean? So to be able to for them to bring you into their heart as well and see the struggles you had, and maybe they're sitting there themselves going, I'm just like that fella. And I think it's coming from Belfast as well, with that mentality of when things go wrong, you don't talk to anybody. I'm not reaching out to anybody. And I was like that too. Like whenever my brother Paul passed away, you know, I was in a bad way mentally as well. And it was my dad who, like, we worked for the council, and my dad pulled me into the main office and into the shrink. It was like an intervention almost. I didn't even know it was going there. And he kicked me in the room, and I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, you're going to talk to this fella? No, I am not. I don't need to talk to anybody. He's like, just sit down and talk to him. And I, like a big child, nope, not talking, not saying anything. And the fella just sat there as calm as you like, and he says, so why are you here? And I'm, oh, well, he pushed me in here. So what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. You know, like, okay, well, obviously something must be wrong. Like, what's the reason your dad brought you in? And started then just opening. I was explaining to him why I was in the room. But before I knew it, I was just offloading everything. You know what I mean? And I felt like such a weight off my shoulders, and the fella hardly said anything. I broke down crying. Everything just had to come out. You know what I mean? I don't know why. And then he was the one that turned around and said, like, do you write? I was in the same kind of boat as yourself, not going down the acting road, but I gave up on music. It was when I moved back from the Canary Islands and all that, that it was a real shock to my system. I was so used to sort of being someone, you know what I mean? Having a name for myself, and then you go back home, and I was driving a forklift in a factory and out in Portadown, you know what I mean? So it was a big shock to the system. I was on good money in the Canaries, coming back to 150 quid a week driving a forklift, and it just killed my whole, what I thought was, this is the way I was.
John, it was so heartbreaking. It was so heartbreaking at the time. I remember you've always been musical. You've always sang. I remember you played an angel, didn't you, in like St. Joseph's School?
Angel Gabriel.
And everyone was talking about you singing then. You've always been a singer, and then you weren't. And it was like, I think life was just shit in general at that time. And then you don't even sing. It just doesn't make any sense. Do you know what I mean? Just life didn't make any sense. I think coming from where we're from as well, I don't know if things have changed now, but there was always well, for me anyway, a feeling that I had to hide myself. You know, most people kind of liked the same things, wore the same things, did the same things back then, and to be any different, particularly on the estate and stuff, you know, it would leave you kind of susceptible to a bit of stick or whatever, a bit of trouble.
That's it. It was like, if you changed in any way or think differently, a lot of the time you go, oh, you think you're too good for us and all of it. You don't even live here anymore. And if you like, especially if you follow the news or politics or whatever back home, and you make a post or something on Facebook, like, what the hell's going on? Because I do, like, I still follow, even though I'm in Canada and this is my home and this is where I raise my kids and all that, I'm still Irish. I still love my family and where I came from. But I've found as well, whenever I put a comment in, I've had some mates come back saying, what are you talking about? You don't even live here. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, then fair enough. You'll get that thrown back at you. Like, you left us, go away. Like, you don't have to do us anymore. And that hurts.
It's because I don't. Well, if you notice, when you're living at home, you never really look at it from a kind of patriotic perspective. But when you move away, you know,
more patriotic the further they are from home.
It's insane. And I think, like, well, obviously when we were living in the Canaries, you know, the amount of expats that are, you know, they're always in Irish bars. You'd never go to an Irish themed bar, would you, really, back home? But the fact that you're abroad, you know, everybody's there.
Don't you call an Irish bar in Ireland?
Bar?
A bar?
But, like, it's mad, like, the perspective that I've got now on back home. You know, I see a massive future. Yeah, I mean, not to get too much into the kind of political side of it, but I do think that the island of Ireland could be so significant to the rest of the world, particularly right now. It could be like a phoenix from the flame. You know, there could be this massive sense of coming together, a bit like South Africa. Everybody puts their hands up. You know, there was right and wrongs on all sides. It's time for people to actually put their hands up and acknowledge that. And then we can actually move forward. Can you imagine a new football team, new music, new everything, new relationships? You know, it could be the center of the world.
That's one thing that always bugged me. Like, we were brought up the same way. You know what I mean? There was no bitterness the way we were brought up. You just loved everybody, and that was it. And if you were a tool, you were a tool. If you know, it didn't matter what religion you were. But I always remember a load of years ago, there was, I think, Republic of Ireland was playing football later on that night, and Northern Ireland were playing later on that night. It was like a Euro qualifier. But that day, Ireland, the rugby team, were playing. I remember a mate of mine was going downtown to meet one of his Protestant friends in town to watch the rugby together. I'm like, right, no problem. So he went down there, watched the rugby arm in arm with his, like, Catholic and Protestant arm in arm, watching the same team. And then when the match finished, he says it was so weird. Like, he's like, oh, well, what are you doing now? Do you want to go for another pint? He says, no, we're heading up to a local bar. Northern Ireland's going to be playing such and such later from qualifier. Oh, I forgot. Republic's going to be playing such and such at this time too. So they just went their separate ways. You can be together for the rugby and all that, but then your soccer, you can never step foot in each other's bars because of the bigotry that goes on between.
It's mental. Funny enough, you just reminded me. So I think I messaged you a couple of weeks ago. I was clicking away. Was it Netflix or Amazon Prime? It might have been Prime. and I came across this movie called Shooting for Socrates.
Right.
And basically, it's about the Northern Ireland football team in the 1986 World Cup.
Was Jared Quinn in that? Jared
Yes, Jared Jordan. He had a part in it. He played Jackie Fullerton's cameraman.
Right.
The guy playing Jackie Fullerton was fantastic. But
if anybody doesn't know Jared Jordan, he's one of the great Irish actors as well. He was my classmate in school, actually.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of different dramas and movies.
He's in The Fall, actually, wasn't he?
Yes, he's in the TV drama. That's the thing. We can't get The Fall over here in Canada. I was talking to Jared, I think it was last year. I messaged him, congratulating him on a part that he got or whatever, and we're just talking away. And then I was like, anything that I can get a hold of over here, whatever. He says, well, there's a show called The Fall. I was in that, and I look it up, and I still, even last week, I actually looked it up again to see if maybe it's been added to our Netflix, and it still hasn't. But it has Gillian Anderson and all that in it, isn't it?
Looking her best as well. God, I thought she was gorgeous like 20 odd years ago in the X-Files. You should
Thank
see
God
her.
you didn't say she was gorgeous as Maggie Thatcher.
Somebody said that to me last week, actually.
She was amazing at that, though. Holy, she was brilliant.
No, but that Shooting for Socrates, when I seen the synopsis came up, I thought, I don't think I'm bothered about that. I don't know why. I just read the synopsis and I thought, no, not for me. And for whatever reason, I put it on. And you know what? I can only describe it as beautiful. You have to watch it because it's so applicable to everyone that kind of lived through that time. There were some of the kind of Catholic players that were getting called up for Northern Ireland that were like, what am I going to do? What will people say? It's about how that team came together. And I think it was Mexico and the whole journey. And I've never been a Snow Patrol fan. Like I just haven't, never liked the sound. Watching that movie and listening to the soundtrack, it was like, I love Gary Lightbody because I actually seen what he's about. I actually got him. If only for a minute during that movie, there was just this one point where the song and the lyrics just hit, and I was like, I get you. And then the more I read about him, the more I've grown to like him. So massive, massive respect for him.
Yeah, that happens a lot, though. That's why I find things like this, what we're doing now, like, especially I wouldn't say we're a struggling band because we're happy just that we're still releasing music and still writing and all that. You can't help who's listening. You can try your best. The world has changed so much. Yes, we can put everything out in the platforms around the world, but it's hard getting people to engage. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but having things like this, people getting to know the person sometimes helps before they even hear the music or watch the film or whatever. Once you have that personal connection with people, it makes it like, even that's going back to when I lost the music in myself. We were sitting here when there was I don't know if it was televised enough or at all in England or whatever, but there was a soldier killed here downtown, the War Memorial outside Parliament. It's almost like the soldiers' guards, the ones that stand there still for hours, and the only
it was Nathan something or other, wasn't it?
Corporal Nathan Cirillo. So it was not like Sophia was sitting on her phone, she flicking through Facebook, and then it come up breaking news: the soldier's been shot and all that. So we're stuck on the news. So like the kid, I think can't even remember was Adam even born then? If he was only really young. But Owen was running around wee nipper like, and I was just watching, and I remember just my heart sinking, like it's happening again, like what we grew up through. You know what I mean? I always remember with your brother Tony. I had Tony in the pram one day, get up and down the hills around by the VG, and Shankill bomb going off, and that rocked the Grosvenor, like, you know what I mean? We were so close enough. And I always remember the panic in your mummy, like, because I was out with the baby. Where the hell's my baby? And she came bolting out and she grabbed that child, pram and all. It scared me the way she grabbed him. She just, the fear in her, you know what I mean? But I can't remember where it was going. I hate when this happens.
Our fallen hero.
Anyway, I'm like Billy Connolly. I can't stick to one story. I jump all over.
Neither can I.
So watching that there, and it's just like, it's following me again. You know what I mean? The troubles are back. What the hell's all this about? And I hadn't lifted the guitar in years, like literally years. And I was just sitting there. I bought a stand and all, and I thought, if I have it out, I'm going to see it, and it's going to make me want to lift it. So it was just sitting in the corner. And the line "Lest We Forget" kept coming through my head, and that's something you could never say back home.
No.
The Grosvenor and Falls and all that. We had no soldiers. There was the IRA running around the place, but we had no Irish soldiers to call ourselves, because that same is like what you would hear from the British Army or whatever. Lest we forget, that's about soldiers who died. But that line kept going through my head, and I lifted the guitar and I was sitting and no one drumming around. Daddy, look at this. And I'm like, hold on a wee second. And within like 20 minutes, I wrote Our Fallen Hero all about that day. So that kind of sparked music back into me again. And then one thing led to another. I was talking to Kenyon, our former bass player, in work, and he was saying like, hey, maybe, if you want to do a recording one day. And I'm like, the 1 year anniversary's coming up. This is a year after. Your anniversary's coming up. Could we possibly record this song? And that's when the Crows started then. He heard that one song. He got to see a bit of my personality, because, we cross each other in the hallway and work, but you don't really get to know people. But he saw how patriotic that song was towards Canada and everything. It touched him enough that he wanted to join, wanted to do something. And that's whenever the Crows were created, and that's how my music has continued on from there. So
I'll never forget that morning. I woke up, it was a Monday morning, I believe. And I woke up, I wasn't in the greatest of moods. It was cold, it was dark, and I went into the bathroom, big bathroom at the time, big echoey bathroom. And you'd sent me a message. You must have sent it the night before, and I got up and I woke up, and I clicked on it, and it'd been a long time from you shared any music with me, of anyone, let alone yourself, and that came up. I didn't know what I was listening to at first. I just seen Walking with Crows, Our Fallen Hero, and it's like the bagpipe intro.
That was the Uilleann pipes, the Irish ones. The Irish Uilleann pipes, one of my favourite instruments.
Yeah, and then I hear your voice, and you were back. I couldn't believe it. It was just, there you were. Like, where did that come from? I didn't know you were with a band. I didn't know you were recording, but it filled my heart, because that's what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? That's you. And when you're not being you, it's sad. It's really sad. I'm sad for anyone that isn't kind of following their heart or following their passion, because it comes out in the most negative of ways. But I thought that was a one-off song that you were doing, like a one-off project, and to watch you grow. And the singles that you've already, that One for the Road's an absolute corker, but I know for a fact the ones that you are holding back on are absolutely class, like absolutely class. Even Tara was singing along to one of them as well. She says that's stuck in my head.
So the 18th, anybody's looking, the 18th of this month, the new EP comes out. We plug, good job. Right, going back to the music again, like, who would you say were your main musical influence? Whenever it comes to your own songwriting, can you hear your influences in the way you write, or do you try and stay away from someone coming up going, you're a fan of such and such, and that song sounds like such and such?
I do cop for a bit of stick sometimes, and I think with me being such a massive John Lennon fan, not just of his music, but of the man and everything he kind of stood for, and particularly as I've got older in the past couple of years, I've realised what he was on about when he was going on about, like, war is over if you want it. All you need is love. Love is all you need. We all shine on. I understand it. I really, there we are. Look, beautiful. I get it. And what I think I can be guilty of kind of singing in a Lennon style, because a lot of the songs I write, I can almost hear him singing them. And that's the way they came out. I think when I was a kid, as you know, I was absolutely obsessed with the Doors. And that's probably where a lot of the negative music came from. And I think, looking back, I wasted too much time on the Doors. I was obsessed with Jim Morrison. I was obsessed with the Doors. I was obsessed with all the doom and gloom. And I think I romanticized it an awful lot as well, the kind of the drunken, tragic poet type character. And I thought that was amazing, and it wasn't for me. But in terms of musical influences, the first band was the Beatles. The Beatles are my first love, music-wise. I was 11 when I got into the Beatles, and I heard A Hard Day's Night. That Christmas, I got the White Album, which I didn't really get at the time. There was a few songs, like more of the upbeat numbers, like Back in the USSR. I can't really think, or even While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I like them. It wasn't until quite a few years later that I really got the White Album, and I absolutely love it now. Oasis, obviously, and that was from you. You know, I was given definitely maybe in What's the Story, Morning Glory for Christmas 1996, I think 1996. And then when we were doing the production of My I'm Pregnant 1997, you got Be Here Now. And I remember we listened to it while eating a curry pot noodle. And I still think that's a great album. I know a lot of people would disagree.
I get so into Oasis though. Like obviously, whenever I started getting into music myself, I was 13, I think, just turning 14. That's when music was starting to really affect me.
Yeah.
But everything around us at the time was all Boyzone and Backstreet Boys and Spice Girls, and then like Wonderwall was always being played, but it never affected me. It was a good song and I liked it.
Yeah.
And it was being played out all the time. It's like the Nickelback effect over here in Canada. People tend to hate Nickelback.
Yeah.
Nickelback are freaking amazing in my eyes. I think they're really good. And some people shut up. Some people fire up about it. But it's because when I ask Canadians over here, like, why do you hate Nickelback so much? They overplayed them. Every second or third song was a Nickelback song. So people got sick of them very quick. And I think that's why Wonderwall was kind of being floated as well. It was just always there. Every time you turned on the radio, Wonderwall was on. But then Don't Look Back in Anger came out, and that blew me away. Oh, the other brother sings.
Yeah.
And to me, I hope Liam's not listening. He's a good friend of mine. I like Noel's voice more than Liam's at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Liam is a friggin' he's an icon. Like nobody can touch Liam in anything in my eyes. Like I think he's friggin' unbelievable. But when Noel opened his mouth, it was something totally different than Liam. And more melodic, and it made me think I can sing like him. You know, I hadn't got the powerhouse like Liam had, but I had that nice melody or whatever in my voice that I could probably sing what Noel could do. So I was gravitated more to him, and that's when I started really getting into Oasis. But What's the Story, and then went back. Definitely Maybe. So the first album of Oasis, where you had that hype when you're waiting outside Virgin Mega stores for the shop to open and all that, was Be Here Now. So that was a big album for us then. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, influence-wise, I think you'd gone to Canada for the summer and came back obsessed with the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
You'd had Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, and that. Do you know what? That opened another door for me, because if you remember, I just got heavier and heavier and heavier. I get into punk in a massive way, and then I even had like phases in death metal and all sorts. I've literally gone through all the stages. And then came back, and ultimately, like, I'm a music fan. I love classics, Wagner, Johann Sebastian Bach, but I'm a rock and roller. I'm a traditional rock and roller. Eddie Cochran, Elvis Presley, the Beatles, that's Gene Vincent. I absolutely love that sound. Yeah. And if I'm feeling really shit or I'm kind of in a negative and I want to get myself going, I just put on rock and roll music. It stirs me. Yeah. I'll be banging away on the steering wheel and singing at the top of my voice, and no other type of music can do that for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. So go back to the Beatles. Do you have a favorite Beatles song? That was a hard question to ask anybody.
Oh no. All You Need Is Love, or Across. No, it would definitely be All You Need Is Love. But I love Across the Universe and Hey Bulldog.
Hey Bulldog is my favorite. That's why I love that song. Dun, 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 dun.
See, for me, that's the Beatles sound, or the Lennon sound. On the piano, and that steady. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, going back to music again. I have to ask you, like a load of years ago, you got to sing at the Cavern.
Yeah.
The Cavern Club that the Beatles pretty much made famous. What was that like, standing on the stage that the Beatles sang on?
Well, I was absolutely trashed for a start. It was my 30th birthday. And I'd been on the Magical Mystery Tour that day, absolutely wasted. And I got talking to the guy, and he was like, "Well, what are you doing tonight?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know." He says, "Fancy playing in the Cavern?" I was like, "What?" So I got there, and I could hardly sing. I mean, I was battered anyway, and the sound was bouncing back on me. And there was like these women stood just at the stage, and I was just, I don't know why, I've never like froze like that in my life, and I was singing the same words over and over again, and you know, but still, my God, to wake up the next day, it was so surreal just being in the cavern, because I grew up, I know everything about the Beatles, everything, you know what I mean? I've watched every movie, the birth of the Beatles, Backbeat. I used to watch them on repeat, and then you're there. And I know the Cavern Club, I think it's moved so many degrees to the left, but it's basically, you know, you go down the same sets of stairs. And as I was walking down, I was just filled. It was like this positive, numb glow inside me. It was magical. It was absolutely magical. And I'm just, all the original bricks were used to rebuild it after it was tunneled out for whatever reason. They used the real bricks. Found myself just looking at the bricks and thinking, you know, the stories, Jerry and the Pacemakers and the Beatles, and it all happened. I think they played there 292 times or something. And then even being on Matthew Street, I could see them. You know, I could literally see them in their kind of teddy boy phase with their leather jackets. And I was just thinking the history of this place. And I'll tell you a funny story. Actually, when we were on the Magical Mystery Tour, the guide told the story. We went past the Liverpool Arena, and he says that he always says the same thing when he's going past, that Paul McCartney played for 3 hours, played a 3-hour set straight through, and the following night Justin Bieber played for a grand total of 45 minutes, and he started slagging Justin Bieber off. Well, he thought nothing of it, because that's what he says when he goes past. And the next day, they did an awful review on TripAdvisor. It was Justin Bieber's mum that was actually on the tour.
That's awesome.
I know,
If you could sing on stage with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Ooh. God.
God, what instrument did he play?
Definitely God. Big JC. God, you know, it would have to be John Lennon. Like,
I thought you'd say it.
John Lennon, Bob Marley. John Lennon and Bob Marley with Eric Clapton and maybe Keith Moon on drums. Yeah, definitely.
Did you ever watch the version of, I think it was the tribute show for George Harrison, when like Danny Harrison and all that were on it, Tom Petty, and then Prince comes out and plays a solo at the end of it?
No, I don't think I did.
You were playing While My Guitar Gently Weeps. It's a whole lineup. Eric Clapton, Tom Petty, anybody who's anybody's all there, and Danny Harrison's playing the back. But then at the end of the song, Prince comes out wailing, and you just see all the rest of them going like, oh, you go on YouTube if you can. Like I talked about it in the last episode of Beyond the Song with Mark Arad, my other first guest there, and he's a big fan of that too. And it just every chance I can push it on to people to actually go and check it out. You just,
I'll write that down. I'll have a look.
Unbelievable.
On that note, you know, I've always been a massive Oasis fan since I was a kid. Can you imagine actually getting to do one song, giving it full Liam like in front of a microphone?
But that's one thing listening to your voice over the years though, you've got a very similar tone and everything to Liam.
That's where I caught for some stick.
No, you definitely do. Like you could, if your acting ever went out the window or whatever, and let's create a tribute band, you could be a front man, no problem, for an Oasis tribute band. Just tweaking a few things, but you have most of the tone and everything of Liam as well. Like I can hear some of the songs, like especially the BDI kind of Liam was more melodic defined than Oasis, and the effects and stuff he used on his voice were a lot different. So I could definitely put you into the BDI Liam version, you know what I mean, than the Oasis.
You know, it's funny that, because my son Leo, I said to him the other week, I says, do you know what I think? I says, I think you've got a good singing voice and you're afraid to use it. And he kind of froze, and I just seen myself. And how I learned to sing on my black CD player that I got that Christmas was on Definitely Maybe. There's the track Married with Children. And I sang, and I remember being like 11 or 12 and getting that note for note perfect. You know what I mean? And even now, if it comes on, I still sing that the same way. And I would say that that's how I kind of taught myself to sing. Happy New and Married with Children.
That's awesome. That's one thing for Daphne maybe as well, to hear Liam's vulnerable voice, because that was recorded up in the bedroom on a week back. There was only the three of them sitting there, and Liam just sitting there with a microphone on the end of the bed singing that, and that's what they used in the actual. They didn't edit it. They didn't do anything with it. That was the recording from that bedroom that ended up on the album. So
have you ever heard? They did it first. They recorded Definitely Maybe. It was on that Supersonic documentary, which is class. If anybody's not seen it,
they just couldn't sound right.
But they put it out, and even Rock and Roll Star sounded awful. It sounded flat.
Yeah. But I find that happens a lot, even in our recordings. When we're playing live, the Crows, in a room, I still get the chills going down whenever we're all connected. There's certain points whenever you're all just in the room and everything's just going right. And I feel it. I get that tingle and I cry. The emotion comes over me and I'm trying to sing and I'm holding back the tears because I know we've hit something there. And then sometimes whenever you go to the studio and record it, whenever you get a mix back, you're like, it's class, but it's very clean. It doesn't sound raw in the way that it affected me in the room. But you'll always get that with the recording. It's hard to get someone to be able to pinpoint that and make it as raw as you can. And
absolutely. They brought in Owen Morris, didn't they? Who actually did their sound. Is that right? It is right, isn't it? They brought him in because he did their live sound and that go nuts.
Paulie, who was the sound guy.
Sorry, yeah.
Paulie was the sound guy. They got him to do it first, and then he could only take it to the bar, and he ended up they got Owen Morrison and down in the Rockfield Farms or whatever it is. And he made it what it is today. All the sound effects are like at the start of cigarettes and alcohol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the lads like, what the hell's that? But it's awesome. And I did it wasn't until them documentaries came out that I realized Wonderwall, Noel wanted to sit on top of a wall. What the hell's that all about? But then I didn't realize at the start of Hello, whenever you hear the lower acoustic version of Wonderwall playing, that you can hear the birds. It's not until you're told that you go back and listen and go, I never noticed that. All the years that you've listened to that album, the wee things that you never hear. And you hear the birds chirping in the background and the Wonderwall kicking in, and then Hello kicks in. And I'm like, holy crap!
I think when you hear that's what was so mad. Like, I thought it was cracking up when you listen to Noel Gallagher talking about how a lot of them songs writ themselves. And believe me, I'm not comparing in any way, shape, or form. But from an artistic point of view, when I had those 3 days I was talking about earlier, right? The first song or two came out, and then the entire concept of what that is came out, right? It literally came out as what it was about. I think we're like radios, aren't we? We pick up a frequency. Some of us are more kind of susceptible than others. I can understand where kind of prophets and saints come from. They picked up on a frequency, they didn't understand it. Artists pick up on it, people like Leonardo da Vinci. All artists, it all tells a story. It's the way man is fallible, so we misinterpret a signal wherever that signal is coming from, and we give our own spin on it. And I believe, this is just a complete personal belief, I believe that the second coming that people speak of, I believe it's love consciousness, and I believe that's human evolution. I think that's where we're heading towards. I think a lot, people are having all these awakenings. More people are talking about love. I think we had a dress rehearsal at the end of the 1960s, but ultimately I think we are evolving as a species. And when you pick up on that frequency, that's what it's telling us. The concept I have at the moment, and whether I'm performing it or somebody else performs it, or whether it's not used at all, it's just for talking about, was that very much like when I was talking about Ireland, it's time for people to actually acknowledge all the truth of what's actually gone out throughout history, not bullshit history that's been written by the victors. The truth, all the atrocities, all the lies. It's time to put our hands up, acknowledge it, accept it, and realize that we're all one consciousness. Every one of us, we're one consciousness. If we accept that, then we can finally, heal the wrongs of the past and look together at the future and actually see where we're going. It's crazy. And I think everybody has it at one point in their life where all the dots connect, as I said, where everything makes sense just for a second. And I watched a video with Jim Carrey recently on Eckhart Tolle, and he said the exact same thing that I've been saying. Some years ago, everything made sense for a moment. Everything connected for a moment. And then he drove himself nuts trying to get back there, trying to remember everything. And it's so beautiful. And sorry for ranting on, but that was another, when I talk about all the artists kind of contributing towards the same thing, at that moment, I was hearing it, everything, and Queen were on, Radio Gaga. It was Live Aid. Think about it. All we hear is Radio Gaga. You go back to the start of the Bible. In the beginning, the word was good, right? The signal was good. Wherever that signal's coming from, it was good. There was love consciousness. For whatever reason, maybe coming from another place, or maybe just man creating it, the signal got blurred. Radio Gaga. Radio Gaga. And that's why even like evil comes from a place of hate. Hate comes from a place of passion. Passion comes from a place of care, and care comes from a place of love. So even people that are sun and moon apart, it seems to be coming from the same place. So one thing that we've all got in common is actually love, whether we can see it or not.
Yeah,
it's love. And I do really,
going back to what we said earlier, we probably wouldn't be able to say, you wouldn't be able to say what you're saying now sitting in Belfast. It has you to pull yourself away from Belfast to be able to see a bigger picture and meet all the different races, colours, all that.
Yeah.
To look back on your past to be able to go, okay, well, I can see what the problem is. You know what I mean? Or
yeah, but that's the thing. We look as a society. We look outward. We look outward for the answers, and I can only talk. Well, no, I can't talk for myself. I know many people that feel the same way. These spiritual teachers that have come over time. We had Buddha, we had Christ. What did they all say? The kingdom of God is within you. For me, the awakening that I had was when I stopped looking to the outside and started looking inside. I remember you telling me when we were kids, stop copying everybody else, be yourself. Because I thought, if I dress like him, I'll feel better. And if I sing like him, I'll feel better. And if I do that and my hair's like that, you know, or when I get this, everything will make sense. When I get this jacket, I'll be a new person.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, you just go round and round. It's very much the same with addiction. I'll get this one more drink. Once I have this drink, I'll be sorted. And alcoholism is basically a feeling of, I'll be all right in 5 minutes. You know, you're always chasing that. I'll be all right once I get this. And it's the same. We're all looking outward instead of looking inward. But just having that time to actually, a massive thing for me that's just happened naturally is working on my breathing and stretching. I was suffering with a bad back. And, you know, as you know, it runs in the family. And I've accepted that I've just got a bad back now. So we bought a new mattress and we got a new bed, and you know, I was trying all this stuff and it just didn't work. Every morning I was waking up, it was taking my breath, and gradually it would go away. And then during the summer I started doing these stretches and kind of breathing into them and twisting my hips, and the back pain's completely gone now. If I hadn't have been in a good enough place mentally to explore things like that, I would have probably been resolved to the fact that I've got a sore back forever. And it makes you think about other areas. We just accept things aren't working or accept things have failed and we give up on it.
Yeah. Brilliant. So John Lennon then?
Well, I've not spoken to you for ages, have I? Oh, John Lennon.
No, that's brilliant. Happy days. I'm going to ask the same question, only acting this time.
Right.
In film, who would you love to share a stage or a screen with, dead or alive?
Oh, James Cagney, Susan Sarandon, Jack Nicholson. God, even Tom Hardy. I think he's fantastic.
Tom Hardy scares the life out of me. He's so good.
Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
And I actually had the privilege, my first acting experience was as an extra on The Virtues, and I ended up, they basically said that Stephen Graham was coming in.
Sorry, what was the name of that? Sorry, it kind of, The Virtues, it kind of froze there and you went, very. I just want to make sure people hear what it is.
as Stephen Graham, like bloody Stephen Graham, you know what I mean? He used to terrify the shit out of me, and like This Is England and stuff. They said if he interacts with you, interact with him. If he doesn't, just let him do his thing. Well, I was holding a fake pint, and it was just by chance I turned and he knocked me as he's going in, and I just turned around and I just said something, and he looked at me and he was like, "You what?" We ended up in this argument. Everyone in the pub thought it was real. Everyone in the pub, and then they cut it. And he was like, "That was boss lad." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I was that's something.
For anybody who doesn't know, he was the fella in The Irishman, wasn't he?
Yeah, with the scene. Yeah.
And what's the crime show he was in there? One of the seasons, he was brilliant in it. The day it's all filmed in Belfast. I love it, and I can't remember. Line of Duty. He was in that too. No, yeah. That's unbelievable. What a person to stand side by side with.
I know, and as I say, everybody in that pub had said something happened to me that day. It was so weird. I've been watching The Leftovers, which is, I still say it's my favourite box set of all time, if anybody's not seen it. And it's so strange because most people haven't. And the score on that's done by a German guy called Max Richter. And there's this one track called The Departure Suite. And when I was on my way to shoot on the Virtues for that day, I kept playing The Departure Suite. And like you said, you know, that emotion, it came over me. Something came over me. It felt like electricity inside me, and I didn't know what, but I knew something was going to happen that day. I just knew it. That day happened, and I knew it was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I knew I could do it, which was, I had no confidence in myself, but I suddenly knew that I could do it. I messaged a good friend of mine, Hugh Man Adamson, and he's as close a friend as a friend could be, and he does a lot of, well, he owns a studio called Let There Be Light Productions. I'd only met him at the time, some years previously, at a networking event. And I just said, "Look, I really want to get into acting. Can you help me out?" And he got me on. He got me modeling for a hotel a couple of weeks down the line. And on that, I met Zena Igby, that was directing a web series called Reprobates. And she had a small part for me, and I ended up playing one of the main characters. And then from then, it's just built and built. By March of this year, oh God, I had some unbelievable things in the pipeline, and then obviously lockdown hit. And rather than be angry, though, I actually laughed. Initially, I actually laughed because I thought, you know, if this life was a movie, you know, for the plots and twists, it was almost predictable. And I found it funny. I didn't find it funny kind of coming into the second lockdown, but then the music's come and made up for that. I do believe if we want something, we can get it. I believe if you ask for it and you believe in it, you can make it happen. Even if you want to write a song, you know, ask for it. It's going to come through you.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird what comes through you. I remember last Christmas sitting, and there was a load of documentaries that came out on Netflix about serial killers and murderers and rapists and all this. And they all kind of came out at the same time, just before Christmas. And I thought, okay, I'll flick on. No one's at home sitting watching all these documentaries, and I'm like, oh, like what? Like my head was monged. You know what I mean? Like, oh my, like this is terrible. Watching what these people went through and getting into the psychology of why would someone do that? You know what I mean? And then I just lifted the guitar and I wrote a song called "The Stalker," which is going to be on our EP on the 18th of this month.
18th was that? Yeah.
Yeah, the 18th. In case you didn't, 18th of December. So Friday coming. So a song called "The Stalker," but it's a weird perspective because it's the way it had done it was more of someone confessing of why they did it, or you know who they were. The way the recording actually comes across is the start of it has like an TV interview kind of thing, like a 60-minute, like coming up next, we're going to hear the words, you know, of the guy, you know, one of the most. Anyway, I'm not spoiling it, but it's coming out on the 18th. You can hear it, and it's just basically his words and his fight between right and wrong, and it was hard getting in my head in that. Like it just came out of me. It wasn't like I'm going to start writing about being a psycho. You know what I mean? It just came out of me. I don't know why I took his perspective more than the victim, but that's just the way the song came out. But at the end of it, it affected me. You know, it felt like a dark cloud over my head because I had to dig in deep just to be able to finish that song because I'm like, holy, I hope this isn't like a side of me inside or something like that that's trying to come out. So literally, I set the guitar down, went and made a coffee, came back and I lifted the guitar again. Well, I went over the song one more time and I went, frig it, I need to change my head. I ended up writing a Christmas song right away. So from the stalker about getting like this lady and like basically kidnapping her off the street and having her locked away, to then writing about Christmas. You know, I had to change my whole view that day just so that I could go back into my normal life again because I knew that would just hang over.
That's so mad you said that because I've heard the stalker, right? But I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've showed you, but last year I played that character with an actress called Heather Bellamy, and I was her stalker. And I brought her into a basement, and I'm basically, honestly, for myself personally, it was one of the best performances I've given. And I basically tortured her, you know, and she was like literally petrified of me. Mm-hmm. And it just worked so well. I must send it through to you. But I played that character. What'd you say?
It's a shame there was no cameras.
But talking about that mindset, I remember driving home. My hands were shaking on the wheel. Mm-hmm. And I got home and I was just so down. Yeah. Just so rattled. Because you bring them emotions up. They're real emotions. They actually come through you.
But I find as well, also people, we know, well, I think of myself I think I'm a good person. I'm good to everybody that I meet. But you also have that lingering thing, like if people hear this song, do they think that that's a part of me? Like I have that secret wee evil part of me that's going to come out like, oh, he can't be trusted, you know, keep an eye on him sort of thing. So you always have that in the back of your mind. If this song ever gets out, is people going to think, oh, there's something lacking in his, like he's keep an eye on him, you know what I mean? So I had that battle in my head as well. Like, is people going to, like, it's almost like a character. I was writing a play in my head for that song, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I even have, go back to the first episode there of Beyond the Song, Mark Garrett from Evil Creek. I got him in because I love Mark's voice. He was a rocker, a heavy rocker back in the day, but he does more of the acoustic rock now. But he's got this deep, raspy voice. And in the chorus of the song is the battle of good versus evil. And the good is my voice saying, you know, like here's my wedding ring, you know, he's playing like, okay, I've got you here, but I don't want to let you go. I do love you sort of thing. But then the evil voice came in and I got Mark to do the recording of the devil voice. So you'll hear that contrast in the chorus. It's me being the melodic kind of, I just want you to love me. I'm not a bad person. And then his conscience is the answer. Then the devil voice comes in. And I think it just worked out brilliant. And I'm glad Mark came into the studio and recorded with us. But that's one song. It's one of them. It's not an album filler at all. I think it's a beautiful piece of music. Now that you know the story of it, it'll make more sense when you hear it.
On the 18th.
The 18th, next Friday. Did I tell you?
You mentioned that.
So we'll move on a wee bit. Sorry, I'm taking too much of your time.
All right.
Is there a certain, like going back to characters as well, is there a certain type of character you like to play? Or do you like to just jump and play as many different types? I know myself when I became the acting, I was most comfortable in like heartfelt, vulnerable roles. And I can't see myself being like a hard man, really, you know, a physical kind of character. Do you find that you get noticed for parts because of the people that you played in the past, a certain kind of role? Or do you find that you're like pigeonholed in a sense that you did really well playing that certain character, so you keep getting that same kind of role? Not that that's a bad thing or anything, but do you find
I think I was getting a lot of angry roles, and it's because I had so much anger in myself at the time, unresolved anger. It was coming out, and it was coming out in a big way when I was playing these characters. So obviously, if whoever's casting sees that and are looking for a particular role, it was gifted to me. And I've played that role maybe 7 or 8 times. At the moment, I've just finished doing like a short romantic comedy. I've finished the first day of doing a short romantic comedy, which is completely different. I've got something pretty big coming up. I can't really go into too much detail, but involves a lot of supercars, I'll just say. But what I love about that is that my accent's completely different. It's kind of like a Manchester accent. I love getting into that because it allows, when you're using your own accent, there's always an element of yourself creeping in, how you would talk. When you're using a different accent, you can really transform who you are.
Yeah.
And people have even said, like, my eyes change, you know, you've got that different look in your eye because it's someone else coming out.
That's what I was saying earlier when I was watching like your commercials and stuff like that, when you were doing the Eastern European accent and all that. I'm like, I can see your face. I know it's our Damian, but it's not our Damian. You take on that character, and that's unbelievable. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, you're all right. Yeah. So I like any character where I'm really out of my comfort zone. You know, my ideal one. I actually come up with characters that I've kind of got, you know, just logged. If I can kind of draw off them, if it ever came to it. But I've got one where, like, I do suffer with, believe it or not, tics. It can be quite funny. Like, this is legit. I mean, we could be sitting eating dinner, fuck off, and it seemed to be honestly. So I'm like on autopilot. It's when I'm deep in thought, subconscious takes over and shouts something out, and it can be funny, but it can be embarrassing as well. But from that, I've created like a full-on, you know, Tourette's character, kind of like a facial paralysis thing, and I love to do that. You know, I really love to create something that's not there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really good. So, like, obviously, we went over a lot of what you've been through over the last load of years, and just thank you so much for opening up the way you have and let people getting to know you. And we all love you, and we're very proud of you, just so you know that too, just on a personal note, not just as a guest on this podcast, but in life, where I've always been very, very proud of you, and I want you to know that. Seriously, now looking. No, but you deserve everything going. Like, you had a rough load of years there, and it was scary to watch from my point of view, being so far away and I couldn't reach out and hold you. But the way that you came through it is an inspiration to anybody. You know, maybe down the line you'll open up down the line and people get to see what you went through. We're not going to go into that at all. But for me personally, anything that I go through in my life, I find myself actually looking back now and going, but our kid went through 10 times worse than this, and look where he is now. Look what he's doing, and not only what you're doing, how you got there. You know, you were literally at rock bottom, and now you're at the top, and you're helping people who are rock bottom get back up to where they belong to, and that's so inspiring. And I love you for that, and I'm proud of you. Seriously, my heart, my hand, I'm so proud of you.
I love you too.
All right. So what's next for Damian McNeilly? What
knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? I was speaking to my friend Hugh. I want to contribute positively. There's a song, it was actually in the Mighty Ducks, and then I found out it was written in the 40s. Look it up. It's called Accentuate the Positive. It's like, accentuate the positive, like a little 40s theme song. And a guy called Dr. John did it in the 70s. Listen to the words of that song. It's almost prophetic. It's accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, hold on to the affirmative. And it was a massive inspiration for me. So now everything I do, I want it to have positivity attached to it. It's easy for people to go, but he stopped banging on about love and positivity. I've lived hell. You know, that was all I knew. So this is a newfound thing for me, and I'm going to grasp onto it. And it is catching. You know, people come to me and say that they've heard something and they get it. And I think we've all got a duty of responsibility to be lighthouses. Even if you only feel good once a month, in that day, let it shine. Yeah. You know, it's important that you let it shine because you don't know who you're going to affect. And if enough people are affected, you know, maybe we change the frequency of the earth. Maybe if people are a little more loving and happy, maybe there'll be a different feeling in the earth rather than the standard fear, worry, and negativity.
Yep.
Next, I would love to get out gigging these songs just for my teenage self, just to fulfill something for teenage me. I I would love other people to be a part of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows, maybe get a few other artists that have got a similar interest. Just make it a love fest. I know how that sounds like, but just something positive. And yeah, I got some good news last night. And off the back of that, the director that I'd worked with before has got in touch. He wants to meet up as soon as possible. I think I've got a fair idea what that's about. I've got, shorts to finish. It's all good. It's all good.
All right, well. Any good news coming out last night or anything? No? That we can talk about? No?
Oh, man. Yeah, I got a text off Tom Pickering, who was the director on Father Time, to say I've been nominated for an International Best Actor Award for Father Time. I know. Can you imagine? I nearly spat out my crisps. I did. You know what though? We did that, and it was so potent. And then we went into lockdown and it was forgotten about. And I knew it was doing the rounds in California and stuff at film festivals, or had been scheduled to.
Is this a short you're saying? It's a short movie called
It's a short. And it just, I remember on the day I was so in it, for the few days that I was working on it, I was so in it. And I had the honour of working with Roger Bingham. It's been around since the 60s, and I did a scene with him. And I remember at one point they cut, and we're staring at each other at this table, and they were like, "It's all right, you can relax now." And we just stood staring at each other, and this went on. And that for me was like school. I had no formal training, but working with somebody like Roger, that was school for me. I was clocking him, what's he doing, and to have that moment with him, and then when we rolled again, it was just everything to me, absolutely everything to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that came through last night, that I've been nominated for a Best Actor Award. I was just absolutely dumbfounded. But the confidence that I've got, I can't wait till the world starts moving again. The confidence that I've got, and that's given me, to be recognised, is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The best thing about it is, I think I lost the ego side of things a while ago. Everything I do now is for luxury. I don't have a chip on my shoulder anymore. And that's a very recent thing. I had a lot to prove to myself. I don't have that now. Everything that comes is a luxury. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And I love that with everything going on in the world, the negativity, all the lockdown and how it's affecting people negatively with their jobs and money and all that, that you are a happy thing that came out of it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You're a pure positive. You've looked at the negative and you've kept yourself up there. People have shut down. That's it. The world's over. I'm done. And they've.
But I was, John. I went through that. So before I got this this creative thing, I was going down a dark path mentally. Doing things that weren't kind of true to my nature, getting carried away with stuff, and it was a lesson learned. It was a lesson learned. I had to make some changes. And I've come through the other side. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you fight for it, you will overcome it. Mm-hmm. And no matter how hopeless you are, you've got to know that as long as you've got consciousness inside you, there is hope to change things around.
Yeah.
So
that's a big thing I learned as well. But you always hear people saying, well, you don't know you can do it unless you try. Mm-hmm. And I say, like, going back to Our Fallen Hero, there was an instrumental near the end of that song. And I could always hear the spoken word. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to write a verse or a bridge or whatever. I always wanted something spoke proper England in there. And I didn't know what I was going to do. So I thought about maybe something the Prime Minister of Canada had said. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's something I could fit into there. So I went through all the archives of like what was said post the shooting. And there was one part that stuck out. And I recorded on my phone and sent it to Kenyon, who was recording. I says, anyway, I'd never even timed it or nothing. Anyway, that would fit in there in the song to see. And he's like, okay, I'll try it out. And then he came back, he says, it fits perfect. There's no, I don't have to stretch it out or put it in a place. Literally, when the thing starts and finishes, it's perfect. So it worked out
Amazing.
well that way. But he's like, but it's the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
You can't just use the Prime Minister's voice in the song. Like, what the hell are you doing? I went, oh yeah, no, I don't know. And leave it with me. So lucky enough, there was somebody I knew who worked for the government, who
Oh,
was close enough. You know, it's people that you know, sort of thing. And I happened to reach out to this fella, and I'm like, listen, I've got this idea for a song, and I want to put this in, but obviously I need permission from the person themselves to use their voice in the song. I said, look, I'm just a wee immigrant from Ireland trying to reach to the Prime Minister at the time. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Nothing's ever going to come back. No one's going to take notice. It's just going to be dead emails, and that's it. But he passed it on as best he could. And then one day I was sitting here, everybody was at work or at school, and the phone went, hey, Mr. McConnell, it's such and such from the Prime Minister's office. And I went, yeah, who the hell's this? You know, joking around. No, it is. We have received the copy, the demo of your song that you sent. And we want you to know that we love what you're doing with it. And we're literally getting it to the Prime Minister. And we're going to wait on word back. We can't see it being a problem, but I'm just letting you know that we have received it. We love what we hear, and just, you know, bear with us until we can get close enough to the Prime Minister to get word back. And I'm like, okay. And I hung up the phone. I'm like, oh, geez, like, what the hell? Like, this shouldn't happen to someone coming from another country to be able to get in touch.
Yeah.
No, it just seems so far away. And then it must have been like a week and a half later. Phone goes again. I'm just sitting, chilling, watching TV. It's such and such from the Prime Minister's office. We just want you to know the Prime Minister has heard your song, and he loved what you did, and he gives you his full permission to use his voice in the song. And I'm like, are you like, is this a joke? Who is this? No, seriously, it is. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I got permission from the Prime Minister. Like, you can't just throw things like that out. You can get sued for it. So I was saying, like, can I get that in writing if you don't mind? You know what I mean? He says, don't worry, I'll send you an email with all the bells and whistles or whatever. But keep doing what you're doing. He absolutely loved the song, and he gives you full support on using his voice in the song. And I'm like, holy crap, I could not believe it. Now that made me like, I can do anything then. The same way you believe in it, you can do it. So
absolutely.
We're still trying.
I do reckon you're going to do something, particularly over there. I genuinely do. I think we had an idea when we were younger. You know, if you didn't make it by your 18 or 21, you may as well not bother.
Yeah, but that's what everybody was telling me. And then, yes, life happened. You know, especially moving here, you get a family. You know, you get married, they get a job, and the kids, and like your dreams kind of take a back seat. And even now, I still get some people going, "Oh, but you're too old now." But in my heart, I'm not. I feel like I still have songs there that, if it's connect with the right, because that's all it is, a connection. Never mind what I look like. Like, I'm no spring chicken. I'm like, you know, I'm like, he's gorgeous. Look at him. Look, I just want to pick his nose. Where is he? If I could look at him. See, if I had your face and this voice and all that there, I'd be freaking happy days. You know what I mean? But I am what I am, and I'm happy enough where I am. But it's just people getting to know you and getting to hear your story, and then why did these songs happen and stuff like that. And that's, I find people, it's the emotional connection then. You know, it's whenever you're growing up, it's the way it was. You like the songs that you knew from when you were a kid because there was a certain moment happening there, and that song happened to be there, and that'll always remind you of that moment. You know what I mean?
But things are changing. I went to more gigs last year than I ever did in my life, and there's a lot of bands that are older now. I seen a cracking band. It was about this time last year called Cold Water Swimmers in Manchester, and they were all of bands that were bigger before, but they're just starting out again. You know, playing small venues and things. And the last gig we went to was the Chiefs. I think it was on the 12th of March. And they were telling me about this band. I can't remember who they were called, but they were in their late 30s as well, and just starting out and getting the crowds and doing really well. So things are changing. I mean,
but it's changing the mindset as well. Like, not that I would ever say anything bad about the band, but I feel a lot of, like, the music scene here in Ottawa, I'm permanently being drilled. It's terrible. Nobody ever makes it in Ottawa. The music scene's terrible here. You have to go to Toronto. You have to go here, there, and everywhere. Ottawa's dead. There's nothing here. But the amount of people that have inspired me just by being here, there's like Evil Creek, are an amazing band. You get to see them live and get to see them play in their songs. Tame Sorry's another one.
Mhm.
They're seriously on the rise. They're unbelievable. And I just
Is it
happened
quite,
I just happened to reach out one day on the interweb, the drummer, saying like to their actual or the messenger page, I think. I went, lads, I heard your first track. I just want you to know it was unbelievable. It did. It
yeah,
was the first time I got excited about new music in a long time. I'm like, whoa, this it blew me away. Down
yeah.
to the devil when I heard it. So I just sent them a message. Hey, I'm in a band here myself, and that blew me away. I loved it. Keep doing what you're doing. Then Adam, the drummer, replied, and then we started going back and forward, having the laugh and the joke, and kind of got to know each other a wee bit through messages. And then he messaged me saying, "We're going to be playing in the Rainbow Bistro in such and such. Do you want to open up for us?"
Mhm.
Happy days. So then we opened up for Team and Sorry. Then you know what I mean. We got to know the lads really well, and we're really close friends. And actually, me and my two sons, Adam and Owen, were in one of their videos. We acted in one of their
Oh,
music.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
But
So
it's mad where the inspiration can come from. For me, massively. God, what year was that? 4 or 5 years ago. I had nothing in me. I had nothing in me. No motivation. I wasn't inspired by anything, and I was massive into MMA. And obviously, Conor McGregor was coming up. Now, kind of views have changed over time and stuff. But as that fight was coming up with Chad Mendes, you know, God, the emotion. I remember we were talking, weren't we? I remember thinking to myself, if he can do this,
mhm.
if he can do that from Tala in Dublin, he can do anything. We can do anything, you know. And everyone like, oh, you get battered and this, that, and the other. And obviously, the first round he did, and then he came out the second round. And when that happened, I haven't felt inspiration like that in years.
That's
I
that's
haven't felt emotion like that.
that's the Irish though as well. There's something in us that we want one of our own to do well.
Mm,
Whenever we see the start of it, and you can feel the rise, our whole nation gets behind you.
absolutely,
It's
yeah,
only whenever you lose your humbleness that they
yeah,
all turn completely against you.
yeah,
Because I was the same with Conor McGregor. I wasn't into fighting it. Me, I'm a WWE fan. I'm
yeah.
into the real kind of fighting, not the real fake UFC stuff. But everybody kept coming up to me saying, "Oh, hey, what about your boy there, the Irish fella in the UFC?" And I'm like, "Who?" And like, "You haven't seen Conor McGregor? He'd already had a good 3, 4 fights under his belt." So by the time I was tuning in, he was fighting. The first fight I saw was, I think it was the Polish fella, the guy with the blonde hair. I can't remember.
Dennis Siva, the German.
What's your language? I was just saying. So that was the first time I tuned in, and I was sitting there, and I have like my Ireland flag underneath me here. I have always wear it over my shoulders like a tradition when Connor's fighting. I have it over me, and I clench it. That's my let the her sit flag. I don't know if you can really
Yeah,
see it there, but I hold on to that, and it's like, come on, Connor. And every fight is squeaky bum. You know what I mean? You're pulling for him. And it was only after the Diaz one fight when he got beat, and he was all cocky and everything, the usual Conor McGregor. But then some of the post interviews, he was humble. He was back to
yeah.
being humble again. And I'm like, that's what you needed, But then he came back and he won. Or it was actually, sorry, it was at the end of that. And then I lifted the guitar one day and I wrote the song One Fight at a Time.
That's
The
right. Yeah.
Conor McGregor story.
Mm-hmm.
That mentions the same thing, being raised in Dublin, being the Irish rogue that rose
Mm-hmm.
up to the top of the ranks, and that's what that song's all about. You just draw inspiration from whatever, like you inspire me. Like I say, you inspire me whenever you go through things and we talk about things, and I'll sit here and rack my brain because I can't be there with you because I'm so far away.
Yeah.
And
I know.
you can turn your emotions into your characters when you're playing them. That's your release. My release
Mhm.
then is my songwriting. If I feel enough, that's like writing a diary to me.
Yeah.
Like for our first single, Gone, that song was about you, as you know, I've told you before.
Yeah.
Like
Cracking
not a lot
song.
of mentions of you in it. It's all we innuendos and stuff that kind of twisted things in the
Yeah.
story, but it's stuff
Go
that
across the streams.
yeah. But actually, and funny enough, going over that there, uh, when it come to the chorus, lift it up now, and I was stuck on what to write next.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody knows you, you were a huge Ghostbusters fan.
Oh,
And
on.
it was my youngest Adam. It was only me and him home. I think he was like 3 year old when I wrote that song, and we were in the basement in our other house, and he had this wee Ghostbuster backpack on, And I'm sitting there and I'm writing and writing. And a lot of time he'd come up and ask, and I'm like, yeah, yes, son. Okay, yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, hold on. And I'm still continuing to write. And I was going, lift it up now. Oh, come on, please. Like, what? And he just walked up and went, Daddy. And I went, what? He went, don't cross the streams.
Oh, perfect.
And I went, lift it up now. Don't cross the streams. One, nice one, Adam. And wrote it down. So he actually helped me write that song. And he loves telling all his mates now, see that song? I see that line there. I told my daddy to write that. You know, he helped me write it. But I love that I was able to put in some of the stuff that you loved into that song as well. But like I say, that's my release of songs. And when you're acting, you can see you're doing that. But on that note, we have talked over a lot, and again, very proud of you, and it just the way you're going, it just, like I say, it inspires me non-stop.
Likewise, John.
Going back to our plays together when we were kids, and I want to shout out as well Brian Kennedy in Belfast, not the singer, but then in Roden Street, the effect he's had on me over the years. I always say, if ever my goal in life, there's an award over here called the Juno Awards. It's like MTV Awards, only the Canadian version. My dream is to win a Juno Award. I'm very proud of this country, Canada. This is my home now, you know what I mean? And I'd love one day to win a Juno Award. And I've always thought, like, if I was on the podium, like, who would you thank and who would you say? But Brian Kennedy would definitely be one.
John, I've had the same thought. Seriously, I've had the same thought. In fact, if you look on Facebook last night, when Brian put a comment about that award, I thought we will succeed. It's what he made. He used to make us say.
He used to stand in a big thing, we will succeed. And he remember typical Belfast, all the girls going, oh mommy, what's he getting on like? You know, Brian was just, we will succeed, we will succeed, and we were all doing it. And to get the passion to play them roles, because it is people did make you feel embarrassed for acting. You know, you had people who were acting in the show that were still going, oh, mommy, I can't believe he's doing that.
I know.
Especially the wee girls, they made you feel like you're in Egypt. But you would stand there and go, just give it, just do it, you know, get into it. And would make you break out of yourself and become the character. And that's all down.
It's like a mantra, wasn't it? It really was. And as I've said to Brian since, I still do that sometimes. You know, I still think that when I think I can't do something, when something's really challenging, you know, you kind of repeat that mantra into yourself and off you go. You think, I'll give it a go.
Yeah,
but, definitely made a massive difference.
Yeah, he's a diamond in the rough, and like the Grosvenor Road is always going to be my home as well. You know, that's where I grew up. That's where even I think back home, like when I dream of back home, it's always around the Grosvenor. You know, even though I lived up at Falls a lot of my life as well, but the Grosvenor is my home. You know, Roden Street. But Brian is.
If you remember, John.
In my mind, there should be a brass statue, God forbid, the day Brian goes, like put outside the Governor Leisure Centre, you know what I mean? Just something to say, like, even though he's not one of them head figures people hear about all the time, but he has affected so many people's lives.
Well, on a personal level, if you remember, I was too young to join the drama group. I was years too young, but he made an exception for me. He made an exception for me because I think he knew me. I think he knew that I needed bringing out of my shell, and he did that for me. And he let me be with you, and and I'll forever be grateful for it. Absolutely, forever be grateful for it.
There you are now. Right.
All right.
On that note, I will let you go. Thank you very much for your time, and everybody, you can check out Damian McNeilly on Facebook and keep an eye on his career. On what is that site for the movies? The IMDb. IMDb. You can go and look up Damian and all the stuff that he's done in the past, and definitely keep an eye out on all the stuff he's doing in the future. So there's a lot of big things coming. Again, I wish you all the success in the world, our kid. You know, I'm always here for you. You're always there for me. And let's just keep doing what we're doing. And that's it. All you need is love.
All you need is love. I love you, love.
Can't believe Joey the Lips played the trumpet on that.
Fuck off.
Joey the Lips. Joey the Lips from the Commitments. Doesn't matter. What's that?
On a Suzuki.
I just saw Imelda Quirk's Irish coming down the ladder. Right. All the best. Thank you all very
Okay.
much. Please share this video whenever you see it. Please keep an eye for Damian McNeilly and give him all the support and the love in the world.
I'm
Maybe
walking with Crow's EP out on the 18th of
When's
this
it?
month.
Yeah.
18th December.
Oh, that's Friday.
John, actually, look, it's the 13th today. That means yesterday was the anniversary of my I'm pregnant.
Serious?
Yeah, 12th of December,
Some
1997.
memory on you. Jeez.
No, I can't remember yesterday, but I can remember December 1997.
That's crazy.
I know. Right, I'm going on eating my dinner anyway.
Right. I know. Right. Love you. All the best. Thank you very
See you
much for
later.
doing this. And like I say, everybody, please go and check out Damian McNeilly or what about you've all different names on your Facebook. Is it Damian McNeilly at the minute?
Damian McNeilly, yeah.
Damian McNeilly or
Damian.
Damian McNeilly. You'll find him. He's
You'll find
famous
me.
anyway. That's what he looks like over here. Look, pick his nose. Right.
Thank you, John.
Right. Love you. Bye
Love
bye.
you. Bye.